The music playing through the introduction to this video was Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 8. At the end of each day I play this particular piece of music. As its emotive minor key and methodical undercurrent punctuate the quietness, my mindset changes. The busyness of the day dissipates as I acknowledge and dismiss the chaotic events. My mind quietens and I become aware of only then, of my position in the room, of my breathing, of my senses. My thoughts become clear and unhurried. In a sense, Beethoven's sonata becomes for me a vehicle to a mindful state, a position of moment-to-moment awareness and acceptance of my own experience. The practice of mindfulness stems from an ancient Buddhist tradition. However, over the last 2 decades particularly, it has intersected with secular theories, evolving into a modern adaptation grounded in psychological sciences and backed by evidence-based practice. Mindfulness techniques are now practiced in schools and businesses and used as ancillary treatments for mental illness and as an alternative to traditional psychological skills training for athletes. The ability to maintain focus on one's game amidst a myriad of distractions is an essential component to successful athletic performance and one that poses a challenge for many athletes. To help athletes improve their focus and subsequently enhance their performance, sports psychologists have traditionally used psychological skills training, or PST. PST interventions focus on skills such as imagery, self-talk, arousal regulation, and attention training, all techniques that help the athlete attain a sense of volitional control over their thoughts and emotions, and it works. The efficacy of PST is supported in a substantial body of research. However, mindfulness training has emerged as an alternative to traditional PST, and it's quickly being accepted as a viable and research-backed tool. While both traditional PST and mindfulness training seek to facilitate an optimal internal state, mindfulness focuses on developing an awareness and non-judgmental acceptance of that inner state, rather than trying to change it. Mindful approaches to psychological training are based on the premise that it's how an athlete responds to thoughts and emotions, and not those experiences in themselves that create a catalyst for competition-related anxiety and decrements in performance. Crane and colleagues explain what I think is a key element in understanding how mindfulness differs from traditional PST. They said, mindfulness training enables an athlete to recognize conditioned responses and change their relationship with those thoughts. Let me say that again. They change the relationship with their thoughts. Not change the thoughts, not suppress them, not control them. And that's the key differentiation. So, we come to some big questions. Does mindfulness work? How does it work? And how do we do it? There's a growing body of research to support the efficacy of mindfulness-based training for athletes. The snippets on the screen represent just some of the research over only the last 5 years. Now, for those of you who have been or are athletes, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a competition or game where it was just your day, where everything went right, where everything felt in sync and you just knew you were getting it right, almost without even feeling the effort? Well, that often elusive peak performance state, that's called flow. Flow is characterized by being in the moment, being totally absorbed by the task at hand, and experiencing a state of optimal physical and psychological performance. Flow is what athletes strive for. But what does mindfulness have to do with flow? Possibly quite a bit. While several factors have been suggested to influence flow, the role of awareness and the ability to pay attention particularly have been identified by both researchers and athletes as crucial to achieving a flow state. Mindfulness training teaches athletes to focus in the moment, to acknowledge but not engage with distractors, and to attend to the game and task-relevant cues. Mindfulness training could help facilitate flow and in turn enhance performance. An Australian study by Scott, Hamilton, Shute and Brown reported that cyclists who undertook a tailored mindfulness training program showed increased levels of both mindfulness and flow when compared to base levels and a control group. The researchers proposed that mindful state enhanced attention, which contributed to the ability to achieve and maintain a flow state. Comparable results were reported in an American study who showed that college athletes across a range of sports reported an improved ability to focus on set goals and maintain control following mindfulness training. Although both teams of researchers acknowledge the limitations associated with a small cohort size and the difficulty in accurately measuring a subjective construct such as flow, their findings confirm that mindfulness training could be used to enhance attention, remain goal-focused, and increase a sense of control over one's internal state, all important components of successful sporting performance. A link between mindfulness and getting in the moment or finding flow is important, but does it actually translate to better performance? Evidence suggests that it does. Martin Richardson Martindale reported that 6 national UK swimmers who completed mindfulness training improved their performance times. 5 of those exceeded their coaches' expectations and toppled their personal bests. Athletes contributed their improved performance to an ability to use mindfulness techniques to center themselves and not worry about external factors before a competition. And then they paid attention to the process of swimming rather than the possible results during their events. While a cohort of 6 is limited and this study only examined elite swimmers, the implication that mindfulness training is related to performance is important and exciting. Future research in this field will be well worth keeping an eye on. Each of the studies discussed have revealed a common thread: attention. When athletes are able to pay attention to the crucial elements of performance and disregard unproductive thoughts, performance benefits. What does mindfulness teach? Attention to unfolding experience. Athletes who learn to be aware of their inner state and who can respond to just the thoughts that matter allow themselves to attend to a target performance, facilitate a flow state, and improve performance. Athletes report a greater ability to focus after mindfulness training. But why? Neuroscience has asked the same question, and the answer is fascinating. Mindfulness changes the brain. Functional magnetic resonance imaging has shown that people who have developed long-term mindfulness practice exhibit functional changes in areas of the brain associated with behavior, emotion, and attention. Furthermore, a study reported by Ford, Wyckoff, and Sherlin showed that after only 8 weeks of mindfulness training, brainwaves measured by EEG changed, facilitating a greater attentional response to desired stimulus and reduced response to distracting stimulus. More research in this area would be beneficial to determine the best practice dose response, as this would allow those responsible to the psychological training for athletes to prescribe appropriate interventions to elicit neurological changes. But what an exciting space! So where to from here? We've now seen that mindfulness practice works. Mindful athletes focus better on the right stuff and they resist distractions. Evidence has shown us that this can enhance performance. We know that mindful athletes have the potential to profoundly change their brains, to actually change neurological processing of thoughts, emotions, and sensations, so they get in the zone, stay in the zone, and achieve flow. There's work to be done though. We don't yet know exactly what mindfulness training methods work best, or whether different approaches might be better in different situations, or even if mindfulness is a good fit for every athlete. Do some athletes exhibit inherent traits that make mindful approaches good fit for them when others don't? Will mindfulness benefit all sports or just some? And which ones? What is the optimal dose and frequency of training? Are neurological changes enduring or do they diminish when training stops or changes? And are effects transferable across and outside of sports? While some studies are addressing these questions, more research is needed. From an ancient Eastern tradition, mindfulness has evolved to become a scientifically grounded alternative to traditional psychological skills training. Yes, there is still work to do, but what we know already is that mindfulness makes a difference, and the implications of that for sport really are exciting.